Hey everyone, I was in a mood to paint today. I wasn't quite sure what to paint, so I usually do loose landscapes if that's the case, but today I decided to do a loose floral composition. I use very inexpensive mixed media paper for my floral compositions. I buy mine off of Amazon. Let me know if you'd like to know which one it is that I use, and I'll leave a link in the bio. The watercolors I'm using are by Aloha Watercolors. These are handmade and they're extremely pigmented and beautiful paints. The brush that I'm using is a small quill, synthetic quill from Szmal. So first put down a few loose petals and then I made some tiny petals. And to kind of make things pop a little, I go in and use some orange on the edges, just to add some variation and make it look like, what a flower looks like. It has a bunch of colors, it's never just one color. Most of my floral pieces are experimental, so I will refrain from trying to walk you through how to paint a flower, because I'm not quite sure if this even resembles any flower in particular once I'm done with it. I just pick colors that I enjoy working with and plop them down in the form of petals, and I stop when I think there's enough on the paper. But yeah, this loosely resembles a peony. If you would like to learn to paint peonies, I would suggest Garima Srivastava's Skillshare class on painting peonies. She does an excellent job of telling you how to hold your brush, what kind of strokes to make, and yeah, I'm not going to attempt to teach you how to paint peonies. So then once I put down the main flower, I add some stems and some leaves. Everything is nice and loose. You're just using the shape of the brush to do all of the work. And not waiting for things to dry allows these colors to bleed into each other, and you get such beautiful effects, things that you have not planned out. So for this particular piece, I did one big flower and then two small flowers off on the side. I just really enjoy watching colors bleed into each other. That's usually the motivation to paint these floral pieces. I just want to watch the colors flow. So at this point, I wasn't sure where I wanted to take this composition wise, so I did not trim this part out of the video because I wanted to show you how long it took me to go in and put the background, so you have an idea of how much time it took in real time. So yeah, I changed my mind. I picked the rigger. I don't know what I was planning on doing, but I changed my mind, and then I went back in with the quill. And if you can see, I'm just lightly touching the edges, and this allows the colors to just bleed into each other again, and it forms a background. So I used to make pieces with a different contrasting background, but I did one of these a couple of weeks ago when I Really love just using the colors that are already in the piece to form the background. So yeah, you just lightly touch it. You allow the colors to just bleed. You don't overwork it. You just keep moving on. You're not trying to fix anything. All of the accidental blooms and the bleeds are what make this background interesting. So you just keep going. Just use a lot of water, and just touch the parts that are still wet. Sometimes even the dry parts will reactivate and do interesting things. And then give it some more water to just kind of bleed into. Isn't it just fun to see what the watercolor does? I so enjoy watching it. So I'm just working my way around the piece, just touching the edges and just watching the colors flow. And once I'm done with this, when the paper is still wet, that is a good time to go in and put some splatter in. So you'll see me do that next. And because the paper is wet, you can see how those little drops of paint just start to disperse into the water. And once it dries, it provides a really beautiful blurred out effect. So once this was done, I allowed the paper to dry fully. So this is how it looked once it was completely dry. And in this stage, I go in and add a little line work. I used to use a dip pen and fountain pen inks for this, but recently I've just been using a darker color of watercolor. So I hold my brush vertically and with the thinnest point, I just make some random lines along the edges of the petals and trying to give it some definition. You can also choose to add a little more form to your flowers by adding some darker values. And if it becomes a little too much, just blend it out, and you can blot it out with a tissue paper, or if it doesn't look too bad, you can just let it be. So we lost most of the tiny flower when we blended out the background, so it could use some help. I'm going in with the orange and picking things up. I didn't like the way that was looking, so I was just blotting it out. Doing the same thing for the last flower, just holding my brush vertically and adding some random lines. There's not much thought involved, to be honest. Again, this got a little excessive, so I tried blending it out. It started doing crazy things, so I had to mop it up. I invite you to try floral compositions and just play. Don't look for a specific end result. It's really quite therapeutic to watch the colors flow. And if you keep doing this often enough, before you know it, you'll start, getting a hang for what kind of flowers to paint, what kind of leaves to paint, where to place them. It just starts coming to you the more often you do it. So I'm just using a saturated version of the same green that I used before, and I'm picking up some lines in the leaves, adding some definition to them. I don't outline the entire thing. I just mark out a few places here and there. I'm now picking a darker blue, an indigo, and just adding it in parts over the green to provide the green some variation. Again, everything's extremely loose. You're not trying to stay within the lines or paint over the same thing over and over. You just keep things quick, keep things loose, and you'll get something that you're happy with.